Hello and welcome to India's World. Today we are going to discuss the ongoing mass protests in Turkey. These protests began in Istanbul's Taksim Square over the razing of a public park. However, they have now spread to over 60 cities and towns in Turkey. What began as an urban environmental protest has transformed itself suddenly into a demand for regime change. How did this happen? Why are people protesting in this manner in a fully functional democracy like Turkey? And why is the street being used to demand for regime change? To answer these questions, to discuss these issues, I have with me a very distinguished panel. We have Ambassador Rajiv Sikri. He retired as Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs, an expert on West Asia. We have Ambassador Gajendra Singh. He's India's former ambassador to Turkey. And you're also the chairman of the Foundation for Indo-Turkic Studies. We have Professor Ashwini Mohapatra from Center for West Asian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, again expert on Turkey. So welcome all of you to this conversation. Let me begin with you, Ambassador Sikri. Is it valid to compare what's happening in Turkey with what we witnessed during the Arab Spring? Because Turkey is a fully functional democracy. Prime Minister Erdogan's government has been elected thrice through the ballot box. So why is it suddenly being described as fascist, and why are people saying he must resign? Why this impatience with a functioning democracy?
I think there are two or three things here. One, this is a protest by the secular elements of Turkey who do not like the Islamization of the AKP, which has been in power, as you said. For
the Justice and Development Party.
The Justice and Development Party, which has been there for about 10 years or so. So those who believe in the Turkey that Kemal Atatürk envisaged, a secular, modern, progressive, liberal, are feeling threatened. The second is that there is a growing authoritarianism on the part of Erdogan. It is true that he has won the last elections with about 50% of the vote, but there's still 50% who do not have a say. And so they are feeling a little marginalized. And three, it's not just the people who feel that they do not have a say, but Erdogan has also shown some authoritarian tendencies, and he has a proposal to change the country's constitution and have a presidential. So I'm saying all this is I think it was all these nascent factors which are beneath the surface that have burst over a seemingly small thing like raising a square park and building a Ottoman-style barracks in a mall and so forth.
Ambassador Singh, would you say that several existing or pre-existing streams of dissent have suddenly coalesced together to make the agitation what it is today? It is not, as he said, not only about a park, but about several other issues.
Well, let me give you a little background about Turkey. This republic was, secular republic was created by Kemal Atatürk after the First World War, when the European powers had wanted to even reduce this further. So there was a long war of independence, and they felt that the reason why the Ottoman Republic went down is that it was Islamist, and it was not modern. So there has been always this contest between secularism, and there are people who feel that the Islamic tendencies should be given an opportunity. And they started forming these Islamist parties from 1969. In 1997, the Erbakan, he and the coalition government, he was from the party of which both President Abdullah Gül and Prime Minister Erdogan are members. And don't forget that he is not only authoritarian, he is very much Islamist, because he had once said that minarets are our swords, the mosques are our barracks, and the domes are our shields. And he says you can't be democratic and secular and Islamist at the same time. And he says, I believe in Sharia. So he's very strong Islamist.
But he's not implementing the Sharia.
He's slowly doing it. For example, because according to the secular constitution, women should not cover their head. Slowly they are changing it. And you know, the wives of most of the senior leaders, they wear this, which is literally against the constitution. Then he is putting on so many new things like that you can't drink publicly. The shop should be closed. And then
But to be fair to him, he says the alcohol should not be sold from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in non-tourist areas. Now, that,
well, slowly,
to say that's
slowly, they get around 25 million tourists, and they get around $30 billion. So, their economy will be very badly affected. One of the things which people don't write in newspapers is that this party has been greatly financially aided by Saudi Arabia and now Qatar.
we're going to discuss that. Let me just go to Professor Mohapatra. Besides this secular Islamic divide, what are the different fault lines which are now surfacing in Turkey? I mean,
so apart from the Islamist and the secular forces, you have the other tendencies. You see, you have the ethnic problem there in Turkey itself. One is the Kurds, and recently the Turkish government has taken initiative to resolve after a prolonged civil war since 1984. Second is the differences between the Alevi community. They are not Sunni or what they call Sunnah Muslim. And in this protest, you will find large number of Alevis, largely located, based in Istanbul, have been participating in the demonstration. And Alevis have been traditionally supporters of the secular nationalist party represented by RPP, Republican People's Party, which is originally founded by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. And third aspect is the urban-rural divide. Particularly, we have this Anatolia, the lower part of Anatolia, where of late there has been resurgence, particularly economic boom, represented by the conservative groups called the Anatolian Tigers. And they have been competing with the established bourgeoisie class based in urban centers. So this.
So the white Turk versus the black Turk.
Black Turks, yeah. So these are some of these major fault lines I see in Turkey, and somehow you find they have been coalescing in a kind of the anti-government forces in the form of this kind of unrest. And that if you go strictly by the demands made by them, there is no comparison to what you saw in Tahrir Square, for example, in Cairo. But in terms of a symbolic, message, I think it is quite important to know. Because here is a prime minister who is out to reverse whatever has been done since 1923 when the republic emerged on the ruins of Ottoman Empire. That is just he is trying hard, what some people say is a creeping Islamization, to change the image and identity of the Turks. And what Atatürk so painstakingly tried to build it. Remember, there is no country called Turkey before. Had there been no Atatürk, there would be no Turkey. Yeah. So here there is a person, that's the biggest contrast between the forces represented by Erdogan on the one side and the forces who have been all through supportive of the foundational ideology of modern Turkish Republic represented by Kemalism.
Okay. At this point, we need to take a break. We'll continue with this interesting discussion after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. We are discussing the ongoing mass protests in Turkey and what they mean for Turkey and the region. Ambassador Sikri, to what extent are these protests being fueled by Erdogan's own personality, which is rather brusque? For example, when the protests took place, he said, for every 100,000 protesters, I can get 1 million supporters of my party. He says he's described the protesters as vandals, and he has said the foreign intelligence agencies involved, they're terrorists. Even now, he says that despite the protests, he will construct Ottoman barracks at Gezi Park, even though he may not build them all. So why is he not learning from these protests?
Well, as you said, that's his personality. But I think it is significant that both the President, Abdullah Gül, and the Deputy Prime Minister have been more conciliatory in their remarks. And I suspect that in the coming days, some fissures may emerge in the ruling party. There are others who want to take a little broader middle ground rather than the more extremist positions that he has taken may come to the fore. As I said, he may have 51% of the popular vote, but you cannot ignore a significant proportion of the population in the urban areas. Now, it is the same as we saw in India, the Anna protest.
No, but what you're also saying is that he might have to pay a price for his political
I think the first
personality and his manner.
No, I think there are 2 or 3 things which are happening. One, I think it will get more difficult for him to get the broad support to push through a constitutional amendment. Which I'm just saying that is one. The second is that his peace process with the Kurds, I believe that a few days ago, the PKK, that is the Kurdish Workers' Party,
Has joined the protests.
No, they attacked a military base in Turkey.
But some Kurdish party has
That
also
is the other
joined
one.
the
That
protest.
is the Peace and Democracy Party, which are allied with the AKP, but they are also with the protesters. So I think that there are some other political parties which are sensing that this is a defining moment, and they should not be, and should be looking for a compromise rather than a hardline confrontationist position.
Ambassador Gajendra Singh, do you think people are upset with the political ambitions of Prime Minister Erdogan? As Ambassador Sikri said, he wants to bring about a constitutional amendment, a referendum first, to see whether Turkey should be a parliamentary democracy as it is today, or should it become a presidential democracy. His prime ministership ends in 2015. But presidential elections are 2014, so he wants the referendum before that, and people suspect that he wants to become the president so that he can continue to lead Turkey. So are people also reacting to his over-ambition in trying to be the sole leader? I mean, after all, they refer to him as the Sultan.
No, certainly they are reacting to his ambitions, because if he is popular among illiterate general masses, he is disliked by the secular people with the army. He has destroyed the army. He has put hundreds of military generals, retired and active. So if we may come to it later, but that is a very important secular part. And judiciary, higher judiciary also, there are not many people who like his policies. And they feel that if he is doing as prime minister this kind of policies, if he becomes president with overpowering powers, then he'll revert back to, as I said, that he has very old kind of ideas. As far as opposition is concerned, even Abdullah Öcalan, who is leader and is in jail, he supports these demonstrations. So he doesn't have many people. Not only that, when he wanted to be president 2 years ago, when Abdullah Gül was elected, at that time the 1 million people demonstrated against his possible candidacy in Istanbul, in Izmir, in Ankara. So there is inbuilt resistance to his ambitions in the country.
Okay. Professor Mohapatra, do you think there's also some opposition to the neoliberal economic policies of Erdogan? Because a lot of people think that they hurt the working class. Some people think they are anti-Islamic. Others think they're not sensitive to the environmental concerns. And is that why the trade unions have also joined the protests?
That's true, but that trade union activism was not so much there in Turkey until recently. Except because once upon a time in the 60s, following the 1961 constitutions, trade unions became quite active. But since 1982 constitution put into effect, the trade unionism was practically curbed. Not much activity by the trade unionism until Turkey was promised to become member of the European Union, then the democratic reforms were set in. But still, I doubt sincerely if the trade union still quite active and could put pressure on the government the way it could in 1960s. But so far the neoliberal economic reforms are concerned, I don't think much problem in Turkey as yet.
Okay, all right. Professor Gajendra Singh, let me come to you. Are there fissures within the ruling AKP and a tussle for top leadership? After all, Erdogan and Abdullah Gül were contenders for controlling the party. And this seems to be a division of labor. One has become more powerful as prime minister, the other one is president. Do you think these fissures will grow? And what Ambassador Sikri was hinting at. So you have Erdogan, who's confrontationalist, and you have Abdullah Gül and the Deputy Prime Minister Bülent Arınç, who are conciliatory.
Well, as you said, they were both contenders for the top job. Yeah. In fact, when the elections took place in November 2002, Abdullah Gül had become prime minister for some time. They had changed the constitution so that Erdogan could stand for election, and then he forced himself to become the prime minister. But Abdullah Gül has not given up his ambition. And there have been reports, because some of his supporters have said that Abdullah Gül may again stand for election for the president. So in politics, everything is possible. So when he finds that there is so much of opposition against Erdogan, then he may allow this opposition to grow, and so that it favors him. But I think the people would like to have quite a lot of change, not just change of personalities.
No, my question is, would there be a palace coup against Erdogan? Because Abdullah Gül and Arınç both seem to be ranged against him currently.
The main opposition party has said that if there are two candidates, that means Abdullah Gül and Erdogan, they'll support Abdullah Gül. So both inside the party, because when the party feels that this man has become a burden to the party, they may split and go against him. So there can be a palace coup. Some people are talking about Bülent Arınç, who is deputy prime minister, who is supposed to be close to Gülen.
Fethullah Gülen.
Fethullah Gülen, because his man you find everywhere.
But Fethullah Gülen isn't he a shady character, considering that he actually had to run away in 1999 to America because he was apparently planning a coup against the Democratic government at that time. He was settled by the Americans in Pennsylvania. He's a moderate preacher, but moderate of a different kind, to the right of Erdogan perhaps.
Not
and the Gülenists.
Not that right.
No?
He is, I think, more moderate.
And the Gülenists form a broad support base of the AKP, and they are in the government, in bureaucracy, in army, in the police. So could they also be aligning with Abdullah Gül and Arınç to get rid of Erdogan?
That is quite possible, and some people have even suggested that Fethullah Gül himself may come back, and not in any position, but to have someone. Arınç, for example, is supposed to be very close to this, and he may become prime minister. So anything is possible in this state of flux.
Okay. At this point, we need to take a break again. We'll continue with this interesting discussion after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. We are discussing the implications of the mass protests in Turkey. Ambassador Sikri, one of the things Ataturk said besides a secular Turkey was that Turkey must not overextend itself across its borders. Do you think Syria is boxing above its weight in foreign affairs, especially in Syria? And what is the point of Syria partnering Qatar to counter another bloc which is also interfering in Syria, that of Saudi Arabia, Jordan and United Arab Emirates?
Well, I think that in the last few years, Turkey under Erdogan has revived its ambitions and dreams of being a new empire. And they want to play an independent role. For many years, they were trying to get into Europe. That has failed. So now, with the whole region in a flux, they are trying to stretch their limbs a little and see where can we play a role. So you see their activism in Syria, you see their activism with the Kurds in Iraq, you see the aggressive attitude vis-a-vis Israel. Now, I fear that they may be overextending themselves because they will be countered, and there is this Shia-Sunni divide and conflict which is there. So Iran is not going to stand by idly in this regard. Maybe, just maybe, the Turks have taken on more than they can handle.
Okay. Master Gajendra Singh, will there be a blowback because of this overextension? I refer especially to the bombing at Riyadh.
Yes.
Nobody knows who's behind the bombing, although some Syrian sympathizers have been arrested.
No, many newspapers have said it was done by Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda. Now, take it along with the bombing in Mogadishu, where Qatari delegation was bombed, apparently again by Al-Qaeda, and there are reports that the Qatari chief of intelligence was actually killed in that attack. Thani was killed. So, is there a blowback, and will it also impact the domestic politics of Turkey in a big way?
I'll have to go back to a little earlier, because in 2001, before the 2002 elections, somebody like Tata, Rahmi Koch, the biggest industrialist, he said from where Erdogan has got $1 billion, to which no reply was given. And there was an article in Middle East Quarterly by Michael Rubin, 2006, who said that the Saudis have invested or given free between $6 to $10 billion. So it is the Saudi money which has been used for party purposes, for investment in those areas where this party is strong. So Saudis have great influence. In any case, Abdullah Gül was working in a bank, Islamic bank in Jeddah for 7 years before he was called back.
So he's closer to the Saudis than
he's closer to the Saudi family. Now, since the invasion of Iraq and the change in this region, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they are playing roles beyond their capacity. Saudi Arabia has been supporting Sunni Turkey so that to have it as a counter to Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia is generally supporting Salafi and parties or Wahhabis, etc. Whereas little Qatar, which has a lot of gas and money, they are supporting Muslim Brotherhood parties. They are supporting, for example, in Cairo. And here there is a difference between these. The extremists are being given arms and money by Saudi Arabia. The others who are not extremists are, motherland kind of people because in Syria Muslim Brotherhood was very strongly organized, and they were politically the most organized people. So there is a contest between Qataris and between Saudis to have influence in these countries. But my own feeling is that this change which is taking place in whole Middle of East will continue and affect Saudi Arabia and Qatar also. It is a matter of time because they are doing it so that they want to keep this Arab Spring located here. But I think it will go up to there. Not only that, the Kurdish dream of having a state of their own might materialize, not straight away, but after some time, because already in North Iraq, Kurds are autonomous, independent. Then a Kurdish area has been created in Iraq. The border between Turkey and Iraq, that is being handed over by Assad to the Kurds, that you have this. And then, there is a desire among the Kurds in Turkey itself, long time desire to have their own state.
Okay.
So if things are not controlled, that may happen. Don't forget that there are 20% Kurds in Turkey. There are 15% Alawis. Alawis are closer to the ruling 12% Alawi, the ruling elite.
We'll leave the Kurdish question for a while.
But it will affect.
It has a bearing. It has a bearing. So my question really to Professor Mohapatra is that the political map of West Asia is being redrawn. And it's being redrawn not so much by Qatar and Saudi Arabia, but by America. Saudi Arabia and Qatar essentially are, at one level, client states of America. So how important is Turkey for US plans in this region?
See, strategically, Turkey has been all through quite important for the Americans. So during the Cold War, even at the end of the Cold War. So don't forget the way Turkey was used for the purpose of facilitating American penetration into Central Asia. And since the 1990s, when the Americans tried to reinforce their power and position in West Asia, particularly vis-a-vis Iraq, which ultimately culminated in March 2003 invasion, Turkey somewhat decided to stay away from the American project. But subsequently, what I found that the Americans have come around accepting Turkey's position, particularly in the wake of the Arab Spring. First, I guess so, that Americans realized that Turkey again could provide the kind of model, because this Turkish model was very much discussed in Tunisia, for example, started with Tunisia, subsequently to
But they don't
Egypt.
want a Muslim Brotherhood model, because Morsi is already,
I'm coming to that.
So, but we're running out of time. So
I'll very briefly, I'll tell you. So the problem with the Turks, they have been all through quite ambitious. You started with the question by saying the Ataturk was never interested in overstretching. He was quite happy or satisfied with the limited Turkey. But since 1980s onwards, under Turgut Özal and the repeat of the same foreign policy Erdogan, again, always Turkey has been trying to curb out a role for itself in West Asia.
Okay, now last question and a quick answer, then we close the discussion. Do you think Erdogan has grown far too tall in stature for the Americans to have, to be of any use to them?
I think that before the Americans, it is the people of Turkey who are protesting. And unless he compromises, I think that Turkey could be on a collision course internally, and that would upset Turkey's growing economy. The stock market has come down already. The businessmen are a little uncertain about what is happening. Tourism will come down certainly. So the basis on which Erdogan has managed to get the support, if all the economic basis goes, then I think he's in trouble.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing your views and analyzing the situation in Turkey for our viewers. I hope we'll have you again here, and I hope Turkey settles down. With that, we come to the end of this discussion. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week with another interesting issue. Till then, goodbye.